promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar, 1 o'clock in Abuja. Good afternoon and welcome to Newslink and West Africa, the Democracy Radio broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world at wadr.org. Here are the top stories. A Guinean opposition candidate, Mili Mono, denounces alleged irregularities in Sunday's presidential election.
Beaucoup de bureaux de vote où un militaire était arrêté à la porte.
Many polling stations were targeted, with soldiers being positioned at the door. When you arrive to enter, they tell you who you must vote for.
Côte d'Ivoire's ruling RHDP secures majority seats in December 27 legislative election. Gambia's North Bank region emerges as a major departure point for irregular migration attempting the perilous European journey.
For me, it's very shockingly that the security of an entire country cannot go to Guinea here to stop the illegal flow of people.
And minority in Ghana's parliament demand bipartisan investigation into reported US 214 million gold bond losses. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
My name is Sankule Janko. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Newslink begins with a series of electoral developments. Force in Guinea, where opposition presidential candidate Faya Milimono denounces several alleged irregularities in Sunday's election. He also denounces the arrest of some of his party's activists while lamenting low voter turnout. The leader of the Liberal bloc does not rule out the possibility of filing legal appeals challenging the voting process. Faya Milimono made the remarks during a press conference on Monday. Here is an excerpt from his press statement.
Beaucoup de bureaux de vote où un militaire était arrêté à la porte.
Many polling stations were targeted, with soldiers being positioned at the door. When you arrive to enter, they tell you who you must vote for. If you don't choose the right candidate, they ask the presiding officer to give you another ballot because you have to change your vote. Some people who started speaking out against this were harassed, assaulted, arrested, and some spent the night in police stations or gendarmerie barracks. This was not a free, transparent, or credible process. It was nothing short of a robbery.
C'est-à-dire que c'est un brigandage. On les arrête, on leur prend.
They stop them, take their phones, and erase all the content. That's what happened to the young man who was assaulted in Ghana. Why did he object? He objected because there was a high number of photo cards that the embassy had, and the embassy was going to get Ghanaians who were passing through to come and vote. The 87% turnout, I believe, is what those who accompanied me voted for yesterday.
Faya Milimono is an opposition presidential candidate of the Liberal bloc, contesting Guinea's 2025 presidential election. Elsewhere in Benin, political campaigns are underway ahead of the combined legislative and municipal elections. Campaign activities officially began last Friday, December 26, 2025. However, candidates are struggling to gain visibility in the public space. The anticipated excitement is yet to emerge, particularly in the economic capital, Cotonou. Abdullah Hassan has the details in this report.
In Cotonou, the signs of the political campaign are currently unnoticeable. So far, no billboards have been erected along the main streets, while candidate posters are scarce in some areas and limited in other environments. This cautious presence sharply contrasts with the significance of the upcoming elections scheduled for January 11, 2026. Among the few visible posters, two parties stand out: the Progressive Union for Renewal (UPR) and the Republican Bloc (BR). These two main parties of the presidential coalition occupy most of the available space with concise, direct, and politically assertive messages. However, some citizens feel that political messaging can be justified for various reasons.
It's true that we've seen a few legendary images circulating on social media. It was really this morning when I went out that I noticed posters from different sections.
The campaign has been launched 3 days ago. We certainly hope they will come out and rally the crowds and all that.
For this election campaign, most parties are heavily investing in social media to reach voters through digital posters and targeted messages. The Republican Bloc, for instance, is centering its message on youth and women's representation.
We need more activities from them to enable them to be more self-reliant for the happiness of the people, for the happiness of the home, and for the education of our children.
Meanwhile, the FCBE, Mole Benin, and the Democrat Party remain virtually invincible in the public sphere during this period. No significant posters or large-scale campaigns have been observed in Cotonou from these parties.
A report from WDR's Cotonou correspondent Aziz Adam Sule, voiced by Abdullahi Hassan. Still on electoral matters, we focus on Côte d'Ivoire, where the ruling party Rally of the Hostages for Democracy and Peace, RHDP, has secured an absolute majority in the legislative elections held on December 27, 2025. The Independent Electoral Commission, IEC, announced the official provisional results on Monday, December 29, 2025, stating that the RHDP won 197 seats across 155 constituencies. Voter turnout for the legislative elections stood at 35.04%. However, the Democratic Party of Côte d'Ivoire, PDCI, remains the main opposition force, winning 32 seats. Independent candidates emerge as the third largest bloc in the parliament, securing 23 seats, revealing a notable development in Côte d'Ivoire's political landscape. The remaining seats are shared among other parties, including the Ivorian Popular Front, FPI, the Union for the Republic, UNPR, and the Bovalo Victory for Development, each of which won a single seat. Meanwhile, in Ghana, the minority in parliament is calling for a bipartisan investigation into financial losses by the Bank of Ghana under the Gold for Reserves program. The minority's call follows controversy surrounding an International Monetary Fund (IMF) report, which flagged losses estimated at $214 million linked to gold transactions involving the Bank of Ghana. However, Gold Board denies making any losses as it welcomes the probe. WDR's Accra correspondent Nadi Diteta reports.
The minority in Parliament wants an ad hoc investigative committee empowered to subpoena key officials, including the Governor of the Bank of Ghana and the Chief Executive of the Ghana Gold Board, to probe alleged losses under Ghana's Gold for Reserves program. The call follows a report by the International Monetary Fund, which indicates that Ghana lost $214 million in the first 9 months of 2025 under the Gold for Reserves scheme. Member of Parliament for Fwasia Yorubi, Kojo Nkrumah, made the call on behalf of the Minority Caucus at a press conference in Parliament on Monday.
Under this bipartisan inquiry, we will be expecting the Bank of Ghana and the Gold Board to publish the fee structure, the pricing formula, the aggregator selecting criteria, and all foreign exchange arrangements that they have tied to this scheme, which has led to this loss. There are also environmental issues that have to be dealt with. And one of the things we'll be asking for is a suspension of permits in forest reserves.
Meanwhile, Gold Board has rejected claims that it incurred any losses, describing the IMF report as inaccurate. In a response issued earlier this month, Gold Board Chief Executive Sami Jimfi said the board is projecting an income surplus of not less than 600 million cedis for the 2025 financial year and does not charge off-taker fees. He explained that Gold Board's role is limited to purchasing, assaying, and exporting gold on behalf of the Bank of Ghana, while all trading sales agreements with off-takers fall under the mandate of the central bank. Mr. Jimfi further said Gold Board welcomed calls for a probe and is ready to fully cooperate with any investigation, adding that further clarification on the IMF report and gold purchase program will be provided in the coming days. For WDR, Nadiri Tete, Accra.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Let's turn our focus on migration issues, particularly in the Gambia, where Jinak Kajata, a village in North Bank region, is emerging as a major departure point for irregular migrants attempting the dangerous sea journey to Europe. Hundreds of migrants are reportedly camping in and around the village as they wait for boats bound for Spain's Canary Islands. The situation has sparked growing concern among Gambians nationwide, with many calling on authorities to swiftly address the problem. WDR's Banjul correspondent, Sanctonal Mendy reports.
According to sources, in recent weeks, migrants have been seen living in makeshift shelters on the mangroves and near lakes as they await sea crossing to Europe. The situation has triggered concern across the country.
I call it a national crisis. There should be a state of emergency, especially with that catastrophe, that tragedy that recently happened.
For me, it's very shockingly that the security of an entire country cannot go to Jinak here to stop the illegal flow of people.
Meanwhile, some Gambians say the continued departures are deeply worrying, while urging authorities to strengthen patrols, investigate alleged smuggling networks, and prevent further loss of life at sea. Amid these concerns, allegations have emerged that migrant smugglers offered up to $100,000, about $1,500 to Village Development Committee to allow boats to depart from the area. However, the Village Development Committee denies any involvement, insisting it has not facilitated irregular migration. Yusuf Amane is the secretary of the Jinak Kajata VDC.
These allegations are false, and I know it is only intended to paint the VDC in a bad picture, but there is no iota of truth.
These concerns follow a major tragedy in November when a boat carried nearly 200 people, including women and children, reportedly departed from Jinak and is believed to have sunk at sea. None of the passengers has been confirmed to have arrived. Riot groups estimated that thousands have died or gone missing while attempting to cross. Data indicate more than 1,900 deaths along the Atlantic route in 2025 alone, and over 3,000 deaths across routes to Spain. Jinak Kajata remains at the center of the Gambia's surging migration crisis, highlighting the urgent need for stronger enforcement and coordinated efforts to prevent further tragedies at sea. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Sangdana Mendy reporting from Banjul.
Meanwhile, the Gambian government has expressed deep concern over the growing challenges of irregular migration, which continues to drain the country of its active labor force. In a statement issued by the Ministry of Information, the concern follows the reports of a missing vessel suspected to have departed the North Bank region in November 2025 with Gambian nationals on board. The ministry said relevant authorities working together with partner agencies are actively verifying the reports and working to establish the facts surrounding the incident. The Information Ministry added that the government's immediate priority is to determine the vessel's location and ensure the safety and welfare of those on board. He urged the public and the media to rely on official sources and avoid unverified speculation, warning that misinformation could hamper efforts and cause additional distress to affected families. Dr. Cisse, the Minister of Information, added that the government remains committed to transparency and will provide timely updates as more information becomes available. Well, migration expert Mustafa Sanko joins us during the guest interview for analysis on the trend of illegal migration in the Gambia. Moreso, a new report by NGO Camindo Forest Frontiers highlights a rise in migration tragedies at the sea between Africa and Europe. The organization documented more than 3,000 deaths in 2025 alone. Among the deadliest migration routes identified in the report are Mauritania, Guinea, and Algeria. Augustine Colley completes the story.
According to Caminando Fronteras, 2025 was marked by a surge in tragedies on migration routes between Africa and Europe. The NGO reveals that 3,090 people lost their lives in 303 tragedies recorded up to December 15, 2025. This makes the western border between Europe and Africa one of the deadliest migration routes in the world. The Mauritanian route remains the deadliest, with 1,319 victims recorded in 27 shipwrecks and 17 boats lost at sea. Departures from this country have been concentrated in particularly adverse weather conditions, significantly increasing the risks. The NGO also reports that 2025 saw the emergence of a route from Conakry, Guinea, involving a 2,200-kilometer crossing point. This route is one that boats carrying women and children must face more than 10 days at sea. Meanwhile, the Algerian route in the western Mediterranean, which remains the main transit zone to Spain, also accounts for 70% of maritime shipwrecks. 1,037 victims have been documented in 121 tragedies, including 47 boats lost at sea. In its recommendation, Caminando Fronteras calls for independent investigations, transparency from the authorities, and the establishment of political and judicial responsibilities to put an end to what it calls necro-frontiers.
Augustine Colley with that report. You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on WADR.org. Here's a reminder of our top stories. A Guinean opposition candidate Milimono denounces alleged irregularities in Sunday's presidential election. Cote d'Ivoire's ruling RHDP secures majority seats in December 27 legislative election. Gambia's North Bank region emerges as a major departure point for irregular migrants attempting the perilous European journey. A minority in Ghana's parliament demands a bipartisan investigation into reported $214 million gold losses. Still ahead in the news, we have press review, guest interview, and sport news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
On a sad note, 7 members of the Nigerian Union of Journalists, including 6 journalists and a driver, have died in a fatal road accident in Gombe State, northeast of the country. The crash occurred as they were returning from a wedding ceremony in the southern part of the state. According to Nigeria's Federal Road Safety Corps, the incident was caused by a suspected tire burst. WDR's Abuja correspondent Osman Omar reports.
Tragedy struck the media community in Gombe State on Monday evening as an 18-seater bus conveying members of the Nigerian Union of Journalists was involved in a fatal road accident along the Biliri-Kumu Road. The journalists were returning from the wedding ceremony of a colleague, an employee of the Nigerian Television Authority, held in Kaltungu, Gombe South Senatorial District, when the crash occurred. Confirming the incident, the Federal Road Safety Corps said a total of 11 persons were involved in the lone accident. 7 died on the spot, while 4 others sustained varying degrees of injuries. The former chairman of the Nigerian Union of Journalists in Gombe State, Saidu Bappa Malala, also confirmed the incident to West Africa Democracy Radio, attributing the accident to a tire burst while the bus was on transit.
I'm just coming back from the mortuary because we received the corpse of 6 members and 1 driver. Well, the cause of the accident was as a result of the tire that burst. One of the tires of the vehicle burst while the vehicle is on a little bit speed, based on the information I was able to get.
Meanwhile, Gombe State Governor Muhammadu Inuwa Yahaya has expressed deep shock and sorrow over the incident, describing it as a heart-rending tragedy that has plunged the state into mourning. In a statement, the governor said the deceased were dedicated professionals whose loss is a devastating blow to journalism and public service in the state. Governor Yahaya also assured that the state government is supporting the injured survivors and prayed for the repose of the souls of the departed. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
In Mali, 2 journalists from the state broadcaster ORTM were released on Monday after nearly 3 months in captivity. Dauda Kone, ORTM regional director in Douanza, and his cameraman Salif Sangare were abducted on October 4, 2025 in central Mali by the group for the support of Islam and Muslims known as JNIM. In early December, a video released by the group showed the 2 journalists alive. However, authorities have not disclosed details regarding the circumstances or conditions of their release.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
For our press review segment, let's join Abraham Parker from Liberia for the newspaper stories in that country.
This edition of Press Review features 2 local dailies. We begin with the New Dawn News paper that goes with these stories. Guinea, Liberia move another step closer as citizens, leaders push for JMB Unity Bridge. Government of Liberia to increase Armed Forces of Liberia budget annually, Finance Minister Gaffwan discloses. Environmental Protection Agency presents environmental scorecard, tackles sweeping reforms ahead of 2026. And to conclude on the New Dawn newspaper, jury rigs disbarment in capital arson case. Our next and last stop is the Daily Observer newspaper that goes with these stories. India shows support to Liberia in United Nations Security Council membership. Augustine Gaffwan, Liberia's finance minister, reaffirms government's commitment to armed the forces of Liberia. George Willey to make critical decisions in capital arson case on Friday. Well, this is a trial involving former House Speaker Councillor Fonati Kofa and other lawmakers. While the trial has been going on, a government's first witness took the witness stand to testify against the former Speaker of the House of Representatives along with other lawmakers. And Liberia Revenue Authority Chief says staff incentives key to sustaining revenue growth. Well, that does it for this edition of Press Review from Liberia's capital, Monrovia. Thanks so kindly for listening, and it's back to you.
Many thanks to Abraham Parker for the Press Review from
politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is a guest.
In our guest interview this afternoon, Gambian citizens are voicing concern as Jinak Kajata in North Bank region has become a key departure point for irregular migration to Europe. Hundreds of young people are camping in makeshift shelters while awaiting boats. Experts attribute poverty, unemployment, and lack of opportunities as driving forces for the surge in this phenomenon. They, however, call for greater support and monitoring to protect migrants. This concern comes after a November tragedy in which nearly 200 people are believed to have died at sea. Our guest is Mustafa Sanko, a migration expert from the Gambia, and he joins other citizens urging authorities to act before more lives are lost.
Jinak Kajata is a small village in the Gambia, located in the North Bank region of the Gambia. This is a village that is highly believed to be spiritual. And then nowadays, it has become a key departure point for irregular immigrants and smugglers. This is because the place is believed to be an area with limited security presence. There is a strong local belief that security agents rarely operate there, partly due to the fears and myths surrounding the area. In addition, Jinak has long been associated with illicit activities, which has weakened formal state control and created an enabling environment for smuggling network. And they also believe that any security that visit that place in an attempt to arrest anyone, such a person will either be dismissed from service or a calamity will befall that person.
And what do latest figures tell us about the risks migrants are taking?
I think in terms of how deadly the Atlantic route is, I think this is an open secret to everyone. This is not the first time that the Gambians are losing their young people in the sea. In 2019, more than 60 people died in their attempt to reach Europe through the Canary Islands. And this has sent a devastating news across the country. And this is repeating itself again. The Canary Island is a very dangerous route. It is not meant for the fishing boats. These fishing boats cannot cross those places. These fishing trawlers cannot cross those places due to the fact that there is a lot of wave, and especially during this cold season. So it is actually very dangerous. A lot of ships have actually sunk in that area, and many a time help does not come because a lot of young people believe that it is just 7 days and then you will be there.
How do smuggling networks typically operate, most especially in the coastal communities like Jinak?
I think right now smuggling is a business in the Gambia, a very lucrative business. This is because a lot of people are interested in traveling, mainly young people. And these smugglers also understand that these people want to travel. They want to travel willingly. Let me just put that willingly in inverted commas. So therefore, the people are ready to pay any amount that is levied to them. Let's say 50,000, 70,000. These smugglers don't give a damn about the safety of these immigrants. What they do is collect the money from them. A boat that is expected to take 100 people, the smugglers can go and collect money from more than 200 people. They have their agents that normally collect money, and they succeed in collecting this money because this is done in a clandestine manner. And then the fact that Gambia does not have rigid laws against smuggling. As we speak, there is no law against smuggling. Even whereas the smugglers are arrested, they are charged with a law close to smuggling and not necessarily smuggling. So a smuggler can make more than $10 million in a trip. And when such a smuggler is caught, he will be charged or fined with less than $30,000.
And finally, what concrete steps should Gambia authorities take now to stop departures and prevent further tragedies in future?
I think one of the steps that the Gambia government could take is to make sure that the smuggling bill is actually ratified, and then making sure that this bill is up and running. so that a severe punishment is inflicted on any smuggler that is found wanting. That is one way. The second thing is to make sure that there is reporting mechanism for the police to have the secret agent that will undertake a journey, especially within these coastal villages. Because many a time people are aware of the news, but probably they don't know the reporting mechanism. If the police or the immigration authorities should have a toll-free line where people can call and report any suspect of departure, I think this is going to help. But after all, it all boils down to the fact that the Gambia does not have laws against smuggling. But not only that, I think the most important thing is to make sure that the route drivers of migration are addressed, issues of unemployment, issues of job security, issues of wage differential. If all these are addressed, it will be very good.
Mustafa Sonko is a migration expert from the Gambia. But of course, it's that time of the day in the news. When you hear this sound, you know it's AFCON. And well, the sport news is all about AFCON these days. And today we have some very interesting fixtures because there is a lot on stage for the likes of Teranga Lions of Senegal. We have to avoid a defeat to secure qualification. But Christopher Atichu is in the studio to tell me all the latest, particularly yesterday's results as well as fixtures for today. Christopher, good afternoon. Welcome to Newslink.
Thank you very much, Sankole. And as you rightly said, there are a lot of actions happening today as well. So, alrighty, Morocco, host country, has actually powered their way throughout to the knockout stage in style, thumping over Zambia 3-0 in Rabat to finish on top of Group A. And also, Zambia also managed to gain only 2 points out of 9 in the entire process or qualification process as well. So they are actually out of the competition. Also, Mali also progressed from Group A after a tense 0-0 draw with Comoros in Casablanca as well. In Group B, also, South Africa booked their place to the round of 16 with a dramatic 3-2 win over Zimbabwe. Again, also, we have other games in Group B where Angola and Egypt also shared a goalless draw in yesterday's encounter as well. And also later tonight as well.
There were very interesting results yesterday. We were having this discussion. He was like, Mali secured qualification even though they had 3 points.
3 points.
Well, they have 3 points, but they are the second best in that group. So yes, they've secured qualification. But Christopher, we have some very interesting games tonight as well. At 4 p.m. at 7 p.m. Take us through.
Right, and so Tanzania will be taking on Tunisia tonight, and also Uganda would also be taking on Nigeria. Botswana would also be taking on Democratic Republic of Congo, and then Benin would also be facing Senegal. And we're hoping that Senegal would actually put through.
What about Benin? That group is very tricky because the thing is Senegal has 4 points. I mean, DRC has 4 points, and Benin also have 4. I mean, they have 3 points.
They have 3 points. So a win today can make them progress.
Even a draw could actually secure them a qualification.
But I think
because there'll be a lot of third best group teams that will secure qualification because of their position. But as it is, even if they get a draw, I think both of them and Senegal will secure qualification. But I'm sure the Teranga Lions would not want that. They'll just want to secure the 4 points outright to secure that top 2.
Absolutely.
Well, Christopher Atichu, thank you very much with the sports. We've come to the end of this edition of Newslink in West Africa, the Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Ismail Kamara for the technical assistance. Do interact with us via social media platforms X and Instagram at WADR News, on Facebook, WADR English Service, and we stream live at wadr.org. I am Sankule Janko. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Me FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Niba County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Banga, Liberia, Radio Gulf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone in Nigeria, and Love 104.5 FM Abuja.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views, and your opinions.